things. So we'll go straight into our Q3 goal setting. Everybody should have a separate handout here. It should be a familiar document. It's basically our 2023 goals. All I've done is I've added a number in front of each of them just so we can reference the pages behind. So what you'll see, the first page is our 2023 goals that all of us compiled back in January, you'll remember. And then the following page behind that is broken down into three categories. We've got those that are completed, those that the mayor and Jonathan and staff are recommending that we tackle in Q3, and then those that are for Q4 and possibly beyond. So what we'll do, and the numbers should correspond there, so to keep it easy, so we can keep this efficient. So I guess what we'll do is we'll work down each one of these 2023 goals. Jonathan will update us on where we are, and then, like you say, he and I worked through this last week and kind of came up with a recommendation. As long as we're all on board with that, and we'll move on to the next one. So, Jonathan, you want to take
Sure.
it from here?
Good morning, council members. Mayor, we've got on the 2023 goals, the comprehensive plan. We are very close to fully completing that. We've got some zoning and subdivision regulations still left to adopt. But when we talk about the comprehensive plan, that is substantially complete. But we're including those other things in there. We think that should be done in Q3. So we should have all of those, to you to take action on if you decide to adopt the new subdivision regulations with recommendations from the Planning Commission, and same on zoning. Number two, the scheduled meeting with the Regional Planning Commission about public transportation, that is complete. We've had that meeting. We have a cost associated with that, about $150,000. We also identified the business incubator as the location to implement that program. One thing that I did learn as we had them on site visiting that space is that the associated rent, they'll get an appraiser to come in and find out what the value would be to rent that space if they were to do it in the open market. In other words, if we didn't own it. And that'll be deducted from the $150,000 as in kind. So that will impact the budget, hopefully in a positive manner, where we're not going to have a capital outlay. So it looks like about $150,000 is what we'll need to budget for next year, and we've got that in our plans as we move forward in the budget process. On track for the FY24 onboarding. To date, we're still on track for that. Really, that should be a lot lighter load than when we did the Learn program, where we had to register everybody to come in. This will really predominantly affect new hires for onboarding. So if you recall, that's part of the HR solution that we're moving towards. We did Learn, where we have some training modules that are out there that department heads can pick and choose from, and then we can have citywide training. We'll have the onboarding process to take care of new personnel, and then we'll do Perform. Will be recommended in the next FY to start looking at implementation of the Perform system, which will help us update our performance metrics for across every department, including department heads, which we don't have anything right now. So on the 5-year capital plan for FY24. All the departments are working through the 5-year capital plan with their budget process right now. Leanne has sent out a schedule to all the department heads so that they know when their budgets are due. All of those will be due sometime between July 7th, so this week, and July 28th. And then we'll consolidate those and should have the 5-year capital plans, and then we'll sit down with the mayor, kind of rack and stack those and have some recommendations to you going into the budget process in mid-August. Council Animal Control Shelter, we've recommended that be a Q4 goal. The people that we were dealing with are out of town until the fall. So I think that's prudent. We don't have any additional information to add from our perspective. We're waiting on them to kind of define the overall scope of the problem. Are we talking about 100 strays a year, 100 a month? Like, all those things matter, and they have a better grasp on that, and also what our options would be, other than build a no-kill animal shelter, which I don't think anybody in speaking to the council has indicated a preference to do that. We've been looking at how can we partner with outside agencies that are in the no-kill business, and kind of, I guess, I don't know what the right term there is, but refer or take strays that we get here in Enterprise to a no-kill shelter. So it'd be more of a partnership with them. And then engaged firm for wayfinding signage. Mariah, Tammy, Billy Powell have all been working really hard with the group that we hired to do that. We have had a preliminary plan that's been submitted. I expect that to be finalized in Q3 for your review. It is extensive. The thing that I saw had well over 70 or 80 signs throughout the city. So we don't have a price on that yet, but I can imagine it will be expensive. So we've got to figure out how we would implement that into an ongoing budget process. And then number 7, engage expert legal authority on the Land Bank and Redevelopment Authority. So that's been briefed to you. And really, as I said at the last council meeting, what we're really waiting on that for the land bank is January to roll around, when we have the most properties. If you recall, we had to have 100 tax delinquent properties in the city to constitute a land bank, and that's when most of the tax delinquent properties come up are in January. So we have the highest probability to be able to have 100 delinquent properties or more in January. On the redevelopment authority, if you recall the briefing that the attorney from Hand Arundel gave on that, he saw no problem with that. In other words, there are a lot of pros, very few cons to move forward with that. But what I don't have is kind of a green light from the council, and if you'd like us to constitute a redevelopment authority here within the city of Enterprise, that would just require some staff work and really give you a brief on what the board makeup would look like, and what the authority. I think you've already been briefed on that, but so I don't know if that's something you want to pause and talk about as a group, or I think we've got it here. I don't know if we put that into a phase.
What we said, what you and I discussed, was maybe get set aside some work session time this quarter to allow Rainer to kind of update us on what a authority may look like, and then we can discuss it as a council at that time.
So, Rainer, would it be feasible this quarter sometime at a work session to discuss redevelopment authority within the city limits? Okay, we can get that. The council will work with fire chief to consider downtown early warning measures. Chief had his first meeting on the 27th, so last week, with the downtown business owners. I think Councilman Goolsby, and I don't know if any other members were there, but I know Councilman Goolsby was. I think that was a good first meeting. He said that it went really well. So I think we can continue that during the Q3 and have some recommendation back to the council based on the feedback we've had from the external stakeholders. 3B paving project, as we stated last council meeting, that is substantially complete. There's some punch list items that still need to be done in terms of striping and fixing some things that Polly has found throughout the project that maybe they need to come back and touch up. But the big portion that we're looking at now is looking at Dozier Road on 3A and 3B have not been finally closed out. And our plan is to take the remainder of that. And Glenn, I still haven't heard a firm number, but I think we're operating in the 450 to 550,000 range. Last I heard, of funding that was not utilized in 3A and 3B but budgeted. So we're going to use the remainder of those funds and apply it towards construction of Dozier Road in support of the VA home, which was one of our obligations. And then on phase 2 on PV Park, waiting on that task order, which Glenn thinks he can get done this quarter. I think the task order has actually been done, but actually go to bid. Is that right, Glenn? So we should be going to bid this quarter, third quarter, and then figure out kind of where we're at on the budget. And I think that's prudent. As you know, some of our projects have gone over budget right now, and of course we have a finite amount that we borrowed under the bond issuance. So I think the prudent thing to do is to still stay on track, go to bid, and then assess where we're at in the budget to see how much of that project we can bite off. On 11 budget sidewalk projects for FY24, that's just going to be based on the numbers that we're projecting for next year. I know you have a goal of 325,000 in there. We're going to try to hit that, but ultimately that's going to come down. As you know, we've got some real needs. Some things have increased in cost over the years, especially the last 2. So, you know, we've got public transportation and other things that we're trying to add into the budget. We want to continue to do street resurfacing. We still have a good number of streets to resurface. And so all those things that we're trying to build into that process, we want to make sure that we just give you all the information that you need to make a good decision. City Hall under construction. So today in your agenda, you'll see a request to authorize the mayor to enter into an agreement with the Public Building Authority. At the last Public Building Authority meeting, they voted in favor, but they don't have funding to do City Hall renovations. And so what this would be is sort of a leasehold improvement agreement. So if you recall, doing our research, the Public Building Authority actually had the deed to City Hall from around 1967 or 68 when that project was done. And then the lease payments covered the debt service on there. In this case, they're not borrowing money to build us a City Hall, but they still have the deed. And would ask that we enter into doing leasehold improvements for the facility that they own. And then in turn, we would have some sort of a lease agreement that would look like a 1-year lease with 30 or 40 options. That's required by law, Rainer, right? We can't go out past 12 months on a lease. Is that correct?
It's unique, to say the least. So you have 1-year term, and then you can renew 1 year successively. I think the reason that was done back when it was passed long ago was to not obligate a city for more than a fiscal year. I think that's why. But we've provided for that. You should know that this lease is what we would call a triple net lease, where the city is basically responsible for everything. That's the way it's been anyway. But yeah, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Of course, like you said, that's a specific agenda item in our business meeting.
It will be. So assuming that we go forward with that, we believe at that point that City Hall, based on the timeline that was negotiated with the contractor, we believe that City Hall would be under construction sometime in October of this year. The terms of that contract, should it be awarded and funded by the council, would be a 12-month timeline, not to exceed 12 months. There would be a punitive penalty, maybe $1,000 a day or so, I think is what we talked about, if they're not done by October of 24. Realistically, that could be as little as 9 months. So, which is what they're shooting for. Obviously, time's money for them as well. They'd love to get in here and be done in 3 months, but realistically, we think 9 to 12 months would be the time frame. So the recreation maintenance building in the design phase, it's been designed. We've looked at rough cost on that. Based on the budget constraints that we have and other projects still outstanding, like phase 2 of the PV Park project, we've recommended, and I think you agreed with that recommendation 2 council meetings ago, to hold off on awarding that contract and just continue to monitor that. Once we get the rest of these projects kind of underway, we'll have a better understanding of how much money we still have to do those kind of projects. Maybe something we just need to absorb into a budget item 1 year in the future. So the wastewater treatment consultant selected and construction started. We believe that can be done on, we believe that the consultant can be selected in Q3. Construction, because of the anticipated monies that we'll receive from ADEM on the SRF application that we submitted, and we believe that we got preliminary notification that we were awarded, we're going to wait and see what ADEM will allow us to do in terms of moving forward with the project. In other words, we do not want to start the project and then not qualify to be reimbursed through the grant process. So we need to play within the rules if we do accept the grant. The pickleball court's under construction. We believe that'll start in Q3. Spec building, airport under construction in Q3. Industrial park, we're holding off on that based on some things that IDB is working on right now with some interested parties. Don't think it would be prudent to have additional inventory within the city if we already have somebody in the private sector looking to provide speculative space. So we're recommending holding off on that. The city code updated, that's been complete and adopted by the council. Transportation plan, SANE is complete with that, and as you recall, we're being budget conscious on that. I know that was Miss Rich's request at the last council meeting, but we're looking at 2 areas that the council kind of indicated that they would like us to do a deeper dive on, connecting kind of those outer rings, or making an outer ring connecting the spoke roads that lead into downtown beyond the bypass. And I think those were specifically Rucker Boulevard to somewhere around Porter Lunsford Road or 27, and then again Rucker Boulevard to 84. I think those were the 2 routes that we're doing a deeper dive on right now. 19, update police staffing with next steps. So that's an ongoing issue that I think in executive session we will continue to update you on, particularly at least during budget time. So that is something that we're continually monitoring, and I think we just briefed maybe in February to the council on that, but it is an ongoing, actively monitored process. And then on 20, complete the Southern Bypass lighting project. We have those agreements signed with AlDOT and Alabama Power. The funding has been submitted to Alabama Power. It's going to be 82 lights, I believe, on the Southern Bypass, and we're waiting on equipment to come in and Alabama Power to mobilize putting those in. The scope of that project, if you recall, will put lights in the center median, 82 of them, I believe, from 167 south over by the community college to 27 south by the Good to Go area. So that's the scope of that project, and it's like I said, it's already been funded. So at this point, it's out of our hands. We're just waiting on materials and crews to mobilize from Alabama Power.
Well, we think that'll be complete this calendar year.
I think it can be complete this calendar year. I'll feel better about it when we have material on the ground.
Yeah.
I think once they have the fixtures, I think it's no problem for the crews to do the installation. That's relatively fast. If you go by there now, I think they had preliminarily marked the locations with some wooden stakes and pink flags, so they know all that engineering design approval for the number of lumens that they needed. All that's been done and approved by AlDOT. So literally at this point, the big question is, when are those fixtures going to be on the ground? And I'll continue to update you as that becomes clear. Adopt the property maintenance code. That's been completed. Council adopted that a few months ago. And then go live with New City website and app. The website would be first, we believe, in the July-August Q3 timeframe. And then the app should be about within 30 days of the website launching. So I think both of those, there's a possibility that both could be launched in Q3, but the app could drift into Q4. The city processes and policies on the website, we're working hard, and we talked about it at our last staff meeting to continue to work with Emily and the team that are working on our website to make sure that it's easy to use for the end user. We've had some beta testing that's gone on within the departments and family members of some of our department heads to look at the website and see how user-friendly it is, if they can find what they're looking for, and if there are things that are not clearly defined, to figure out how to get them clearly defined. So I think we're in good shape to have a lot of those from revenue, engineering, and water. And a lot of those are already on the website. They're just not easy to find. They're not, it doesn't jump out at you when you're say, how do I get a business license? And we have some information on the website currently on how to get a business license, but it may not be the most user-friendly. So we're working hard to try to figure out how to make that more accessible and easier to find. And I think that's it.
The only item that we didn't cover was it wasn't a 2023 goal, but we had added it to our issues, was the business license fixes. We did a little bit last year. We got a couple more things that have been added to y'all's list. I don't guess you don't have anything to add to that, do you? That's something we just need to get on an agenda between now and
we probably need to talk about it during a work session, find out what the council's appetite is to make the changes recommended. Mm-hmm. So if you want it on the next agenda, or you want it in August, I think we can do that pretty quickly.
As long as we get it done sometime this quarter, we'll be fine, right? Because
correct.
That just needs to be in place by December.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
We have to have enough time. Really, yeah. I mean, if we wait till fourth quarter, we won't have time typically to advertise.
So we need to do it this quarter.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I've got it on the list. We'll make sure to keep it in front of us. Any other any concerns with Jonathan's recommendations? Anything else we need to bring to the forefront? Scotty, you good? Greg?
I'm good on the recommendations. I do have a question. I've been kind of holding off on it because working on the comprehensive plan and different code changes and things, and maybe I've missed it. It's been done, but when we were initially talking about the comprehensive plan, there was some discussion about potentially making some changes to home-based businesses. I've gotten a lot of feedback from the public in the last few weeks that it seems like both engineering and revenue's hands are tied because of the home-based business ordinance that's out in place. It's sort of antiquated in today's economy. And so just like for us to take a look at that at some point, wherever it makes sense in all of this process while we're working on all these city codes and ordinances and stuff. So.
And that's specifically in the zoning ordinance?
I don't really remember at this point where that falls. I just know that it's.
I'll let Thomas come up.
I know there's been some discussion, but I'm not sure where we are on it.
Yes, sir. So in the new zoning ordinance that we are hoping to get through planning commission into your desk, I believe everybody up here's got a copy of it. The home occupation ordinance is what you're referencing. Okay. So if there's anything that you think we need to, we did change some things in there. We define what a major home occupation would be and what a minor home occupation would be. We gave some more verbiage and things like that. But if there's anything that you think needs to be added to that, taken away from that, we try to make it easier for them to have home occupations while also not putting any adverse effect on the neighborhood itself.
I just missed that. I
Yes, sir.
apologize.
No, it's no problem. But if you'll give me your feedback on that, or everyone will give me your feedback on that, we can try to make it as easy for someone to do it as we can without adversely affecting the neighborhood that's around it.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So did you want to make that a quarterly goal, or you think that's something you and Thomas can handle?
And I'll just go back and look at it since
Okay.
we're in that process. I missed it in the book. So
Okay.
looking through all the stuff there. Let me see what they did before I make any more.
Okay. So Jonathan asked me to explain a little bit of the schedule with the new zoning ordinance and the subdivision regulations. So the new zoning ordinance has already been taken to Planning Commission for review. We've held a couple work sessions to talk about it. I've supplied the zoning ordinance to the members of the council up here. I believe me, Eugene, and Mrs. Rich have been able to discuss it. So basically what we're wanting to do is, if we can get everybody on the same page with what needs to be in it, what needs to be done, we will vote on it at this Planning Commission meeting, which will be July 24th. We'll hopefully be able to put it on your docket for introduction first August council meeting. It has to lay over, and then it would be voted on in the first September meeting. The subdivision regulations, the council actually doesn't have to take action on those. The Planning Commission is the one who will take action on those, adopting new ones, and that's just a state law powers given to the Planning Commission to do that. And so we're hoping to have that on the Planning Commission agenda for the August meeting. So hopefully we have the new subdivision regs adopted, and we'll have the new zoning regulations adopted by 1st of September.
Feedback. They're going to vote on it on the 24th. They're going to need to respond if they want changes.
Yes, sir. So what I would like to do is, I know I've tried to set up a couple of meetings before, is I would like to get some meetings set up with the council in probably the next week or so, to be able to go over that and get your feedback on anything that you want changed in the zoning ordinance. That way I can communicate that as well to the Planning Commission, and we can, my office can work to get those set up with you in the coming weeks. But we can make changes in the zoning ordinance up till the date it goes to the Planning Commission, because it does not, the whole ordinance does not have to be advertised until it goes to the council. So we're able to make those changes pretty much on the fly.
So we need to get with you ASAP to
Yes,
to
sir.
come sit down with you. All right.
Are you wanting us to contact you, or are you going to kind of do it like you did last time? You kind of.
We'll reach out and
Okay.
we'll set up any time that is good with the council to talk about it. If you need another copy of the zoning ordinance, or if there's anything you want to go over, we can help facilitate that as well.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Anything else on zoning? Does that satisfy you as far as what needs to happen? All right, Eugene, you got any issues with Jonathan's recommendations today?
I don't think so.
Sonia, you good?
I'm good. I'll wait till the review of the agenda. I had a question somewhat about what was mentioned in Q3 about some word in here in it's resolution 0705 about the Public Building Authority.
Okay. But that's on the agenda.
Mhm.
So you want to, okay, we can hold discussion for that until we get there. All right. Well, if nobody has anything, I'm good with it. We will move on to our agenda review, which is in your big packet. All right, so we'll have our normal agenda at the beginning, which is roll call, opening prayer, and pledge of allegiance, approval of the agenda, and the consent agenda, which consists of our meeting minutes from June 20th, our accounts payable A, contract billings from Whaley for the Rec and Aquatic Center, Wiregrass Construction Company, for the resurfacing Phase 3B, Poly Engineering for the same project, resurfacing Phase 3B, Barge for the corporate hangar, the design services on that, and KPS Group for our contract planning services and our contract services zoning map, all that related to the comprehensive plan. So then we've got travel requests from the police department for Officer Kimberly Barnes and Genevieve Morris. Any issues with the consent agenda? Anything we need to
I
fill
do
out?
have a question
Okay,
about
go ahead.
accounts payable A. The accounts payable A for May was roughly $924,927. It's quite a jump, and I'm just curious as to what caused that.
So we did have a couple of items that went through accounts payable that were larger, big ticket items. One was the Musco lighting for $450,000. That's for the lighting out at PV Park. And then the
So
other
that's separate
one,
from the contract with Beasley.
it's separate. And I think what happened is normally that probably should have been listed not with accounts payable. It should have been listed separately with the contracts, with the contract billings. But that invoice and there was another invoice for $150,000. So I mean, between the two of them, that's $600,000. That probably would have been better listed as contract billing. The $150,000 was for the National Fitness Program, the new area that's being built for
At the rec
Parks
center?
and yes. So all that equipment, I know that's not been put up yet, but all that equipment came in and we and is here, just not in place yet. So that bill was paid. Then the lighting for PV Park was paid, and for whatever reason this month those bills went directly to the accounts payable clerk, and she paid them and included them in her report. Versus normally those bills normally would either go to Beverly for payment and listing on the contract billings, or come to me and then go to Beverly. So it just was listed in a different place, but those are $600,000 difference.
Thank you.
Not to mention the account too that also I noticed that it's getting hot outside and our electric bill went up by like $20,000 from one
Yeah.
month to the next. So
I'm sure.
yes,
Mhm.
yes. So
We
anyway,
also had the Sunbelt fire apparatus from fire
for
department
police or for fire. Yes, yes.
was $678,000. Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the consent agenda? Thank you, Sonia. Moving on to consider permanent street closure request for Main Street Girls Night Out. Anything we need to know about that? Seems pretty straightforward. Everybody good with that?
Mhm.
All right. Looks like we previously approved that, but the permit reflects a change in the street closure time and area. Then we've got privilege of the floor and staff reports. Moving to old business, we have public hearing and consideration of ordinance 0623, which is the Herring Cove LLC rezone of 16.5 acres from B1 to R75A. Thomas, we need to know anything about that?
This one's pretty straightforward. Basically, when these apartments were built, the zoning ordinance allowed for apartment buildings to be built in a B1 zone. So when we adopted a new zoning ordinance, I believe is 08, somewhere around there, the zoning map never changed to reflect that change, that B1 was no longer allowed to have apartments. So this is basically just correcting that to fix the zoning in that area.
So this is where the existing apartments are. This
Yes,
is
sir.
additional apartments.
Yes, sir. These are where existing apartments are, and they're just trying to fix their zoning.
Gotcha. Any questions? All right, then we'll have a McDaniel Farms rezone hearing. Want to update us on that?
Yes, sir. This one's also pretty straightforward. This is over on 167 and Salem Road intersection. They're wanting to put a gas station of sorts in that area right there. We've been in contact with AlDOT about the roads. We've put some parameters in about Salem Road as well to make sure that road is improved if there happens to be an entrance that goes on there, because there will be some increased truck traffic. And we've also contacted the airfield to make sure that future development will not interfere with any of their operations, which Paul Meisner has told me that it will not. The only thing they're worried about is lighting, and we can handle that in the construction phase.
Is this where the caution light is?
Yeah.
On what? Where we have a wreck
It is.
sign?
Southeast corner.
So they're going to force the entrance of that to go as far away from that intersection as they can to limit any potential traffic issues.
Would that entrance be on 167?
Yes, sir. It'll be on 167, and I believe they plan on lining it up with Industrial Boulevard further down.
Sonia, those were my concerns when it came to the planning commission, especially on Salem Road with the truck, because it's a truck stop. That's what it's going to be. And got to work on that road and the coming off 167 as busy as it is.
I just asked because I know we made comments in meetings before that we're going to work on trying to make that particular intersection do things to make it safer. So I was just, it just kind of alarmed me that I'm just shocked to see that.
Let me add one thing to that. One, during the planning commission, we talked about the increased truck traffic. The developer will, once they get into the design, they'll be working with AlDOT to see if a signal is justified at that intersection, as well as what AlDOT will require as far as right-hand or left-hand turn lanes into there. So we won't get into that until it gets into the design phase. But there was a lot of concern about truck traffic and vehicle traffic at that intersection, and the developer heard it loud and clear that he's not only during construction phase, he's got to come to us. This is just for rezone at this point to zone it correctly, but he'll have to come back with other construction drawings. We'll look at traffic, and we'll have to deal with AlDOT as well.
But the planning commission is in support of the.
Yes, ma'am, they are.
Just the reason that.
Just for the rezone. That's all you're doing right now is a rezone, not the construction plans.
Yeah, there was a lot of concerns, but with just rezone, that was,
Right.
and then we'll see what
We
they're
haven't
going to
seen
do.
the final layout, what it'll look like and what the turn lanes are, but it needs to be pushed farther away, and AlDOT will have a lot of concerns with that as well. And one of the things that we asked is make sure that we look at the traffic counts and all there to make sure if there's a signal required, they'll do a signal warrant study, as well as what is required as right turn or left turn lanes into the.
Of course, the 5-lane project will be complete by the time
It should
they get
be,
around to
hopefully.
construction, right?
Should be. Yes, ma'am.
All right. Then we've just got a couple of planning commission recommendations to introduce. No action on the Shane Smith rezone of 0.41 acres from B2 to R65, and a request by North Star Engineer on behalf of Pecan Grove Development of 3.18 acres of land from R65 to R75A. And then we'll introduce the respective ordinances also. Again, no action, just introducing those for our August 1st meeting. The next item is item we probably need to talk about a little bit is the Resolution 070523, which is the Public Building Authority City Hall renovations. Jonathan already touched on that in our 2023 goals, but let's drill down a little bit more on that, make sure we all understand what we're approving today.
Sure. So, as I stated, the Public Building Authority has no funding mechanism or source. They're not borrowing money. The city would basically be making leasehold improvements on City Hall. In other words, we said to the landlord, in this case, Public Building Authority, we want to renovate this facility. It's not meeting our needs anymore. The Public Building Authority said, yeah, we'd be happy to help facilitate that and work with a contractor to, select somebody that can make those renovations, but you've got to pay for it. And so that's kind of where we're at. If you recall, we bid this project out, and it came in at somewhere, the low bid was about $8.5 million. And so as it sits now, there's a cost not to exceed with the contract the Public Building Authority has not to exceed 7.8 million. So at a minimum, we would be $700,000 cheaper to do roughly the same project going through the Public Building Authority. In addition to that, there's $300,000 of contingency built in there. So it could be as low as 7.5 million, assuming we didn't use any of the contingencies. In that contract, it's also there's also a performance-based mechanism in there whereby the contractor roughly gets about 20 cents on the dollar that they save us. In other words, their profits are fixed at whatever it would be on the $7.5 million contract. But any cost savings, we split on an 80-20 basis. So they got us down to $6.5 million. It would save the city an additional $800,000, and they would receive another $200,000 in profit. So it seems to be a very well structured contract, something the city wouldn't be able to do on their own, but because of the powers of the Public Building Authority, they are able to do that and negotiate with the contractors to do the work. So additionally, I think within the terms of that, the Public Building Authority is willing to let Barry Mott and Leanne, as a CFO, handle the payments and billings. In other words, we wouldn't just give them, a check, here's $7.8 million. We would control, the work, the invoices that come in, and make sure that we're paying for work that we actually wanted to get done and it's to our satisfaction. So, Rainer, did I miss anything on that?
So we're providing the funding to the public authority.
That's correct.
So
Yes,
when I
ma'am.
read this, although I didn't get too excited to think we got a grant for 7.8 million because I didn't remember that ever being brought to us. But if I read that, this resolution which will approve the grant. So you would think it's some grant. That's my mind was approve the grant to the public authority that's up to 7.8 million.
Maybe should have read
Not a grant.
approved to grant.
2 grant. Okay. I just want to make sure
Two
I didn't miss
grant
something
B.
about a grant for 7.8
Public Building
That would be
Authority.
Excellent. But I didn't-
We're
I
the
just wanna be
grant.
sure.
We're the grantor.
We're the grant.
Right. That's right. I wish we did get a grant.
Got it.
Any other questions?
Everybody up to speed on what's going on there, and this, of course, will come from the same funding that we originally contemplated the funding to come from,
That's correct.
which was the bond issuance.
Correct.
All right. Next item is the authorization of the mayor to execute amendment number 1 to the agreement with CC and Litchfield. It's just shy of 300,000 additional. I assume we're going to get an explanation on that.
Yes, sir. There's 2 reasons for this. One, the simple fact the contract was set up on basic services, a percentage of construction costs at $5.5 million. The original estimate was $21 million on the rec center. It actually came in at a little over $23 million. So adjusting the amount of the percentage to the not to exceed amount, but they used the state fee curves. So at $23 million, it actually drops to 5.4%. So it's not a straight 5.5% of the amount of $23,162,000. It's for 5.4% of that $23,162,000. The other is an error on my part. When I gave you the not to exceed amount, it was for basic services only. And the basic services is the fees that the architect charges to design. There was also some additional services that were in that contract that I failed to put those numbers into the not to exceed amount, like the pool subconsultant that designed the pool, boundary survey that I asked for, because we have several, that if you didn't know, there's several parcels that the rec center sits on. I wanted to clean that up because we have actually 3 different zonings on that parcel that the whole entire rec center sits on. So I'm trying to get all that cleaned up. And those are all additional services to the contract that I knew and I acknowledged early on and made a recommendation. But when I gave you the not to exceed amount, I just read basic services. I didn't add those additional services. So I also brought CC Litchfield here as well. They're here in the audience and be glad to answer any questions you got. But this is basically it's the same contract that we've got, the same one that you reviewed. It's just to catch the not to exceed number up to the number that it should have been. And I'll be glad to answer any questions you got.
So where are we at on the overall budget on the Parks and Rec and Aquatic Center?
So we had built in a contingency fee in that contract of roughly about $500,000 into that. We've eaten some of that contingency fee up, but we're still within budget, and we're still on track to be complete. Contractor's telling us sometime around October they're expecting to be through with the rec center. Our goal was to have it done by December of next year, of 24. Is that right? 24. So yeah, it was 23.7 million. What I remember, 23.8 million. We're still right on budget for the number that we approved early on.
And that includes design services.
That number does not. That is just construction numbers. We've also got in that number. We got a $30 million budget on the total budget of the project. So you've got A&E fees that come on top of the construction. You've got FF&E, which is all the fit furnishings and fixtures. So anything that when you take the roof off and you shake the building that would fall out. So desks, furniture, basketballs, that kind of stuff. Those things are included. We got $500,000 in there for FF&E for the building. And then we still got a little bit of money left to finish the stuff for the passive park and to do a little bit of work around the outside of the building and some of the fencing and lighting on the other part where the ball fields are. So total budget on the project's $30 million, and we're still on track to be under budget on this project. We're at budget.
All right. Does anybody have any questions for Barry or for our representatives from CC and Litchfield on the amendment?
Thank
All right. Then that's the last item on the agenda. We'll move into mayor's report and council member comments. Everybody good with this agenda?
Yeah.
No additions, deletions. All right. We got about 7 or 8 minutes. If you got something you want to talk to us about, to give us about a 5-minute recess between meetings.
Well, I'll be brief. I just wanted to make sure that the council was aware. The water board is going to have a work session tomorrow. I know Councilman Goolsby and the mayor are aware of this, but part of the discussion is their capital plan, and as they look as whether or not they're going to go with pay as you go or borrow money. One of the recommendations that Leanne and I have with looking through their current debt structure with the city, as well as having enough free cash flow for contingencies and other things, we do think that it would be prudent for them to consider borrowing some amount of money. If they were to do that, they could go to the bank, they could do a bond on their own, or they could partner with the city, as we've done in the past, and borrow the money. That seems to be the most cost advantageous for both them and for the city with our current debt structure. So if the water board decides to do that and they elect to ask the city, I wanted you to be aware that could come back before you, where the city would borrow the money with a funding agreement similar to what we have now with the water board for the last debt issuance that was done, and they would pledge revenues to make payments for that, and that looks like it would extend out for about 16 years if they decide to move forward. So I'll know more after the meeting tomorrow for the work session, but I didn't want to just bring it before you at some point and then everybody kind of look at me like, well, what is this for? What's it about? And so I don't know, Councilman Goolsby or Mayor, if you have anything to add on that, but I just wanted to make sure that this body knew that could come up over the next month or two.
Is this for capital projects for the water board, or?
It is new tanks, wells, SCADA, further water line replacements, which is something that we're trying to do in conjunction with the water department, is replace lines and pave streets in a way that makes sense for us not to pave a street on a line that needs, and they're like us. So they have maybe, 15 or $20 million worth of water lines that would, they think they need to replace sooner than later. This isn't 30 years out. This is probably over the next 5 or 10 years. We have a lot of streets that still need to be resurfaced, and that number is probably in the 13 or $14 million range. And we think we've got it now to a manageable amount where we can start chipping away at that, hopefully getting up to, over the next few years, $1.5 million, $2 million a year. But the water board's going to need to also figure out how they're going to front load that. And the sooner they do it, the better, because those lines aren't getting better. So just like our streets aren't getting better. So
Yeah, if y'all are anything like me, the phone calls you receive now are on streets that need repaving. When I go question, Glenn or Jonathan, or look at the list, these are all streets that have been identified as high risk for a water burst, so that those streets are now at the bottom of the list, and they're going to stay there either until we decide to repave them in front of a water project, or until we wait for the water board to pave. I assume y'all are seeing some of the same things in your districts.
Yeah, my street's one of them.
Yeah.
It's on the very bottom.
Yeah.
Which is good.
So, these are streets that would have already been paved if we had not been told by the water board, no, we're going to have to dig that street up for a water project.
And they don't have the resources to do everything in-house. It's just not a feasible solution for them. And there are already streets that they know, not just at high risk, but that already have leaks on them. So, especially those streets, it would not make a lot of sense for us to go in and resurface streets that already have leaks. But I just wanted to make sure, and also, I don't know that you have an opinion on it right now, but it may be good to talk to the mayor or Councilman Goolsby, since they're also in with the water board, to talk about, your preference on, if the city does have an appetite to issue those bonds, or if they need to go it alone, or that kind of stuff.
So in layman's terms, city can borrow money cheaper than the water board.
Right.
So use
about 25 basis points.
So use the city's ability to borrow money cheaper, and then secure the funding of that money from their revenues.
It saved the water board about $200,000.
Yeah. So, okay. Anybody have any I'm not looking for any approvals. Does anybody have any heartburn over that in principle?
It still makes good sense
Right.
to replace water lines before you put new pavement down and have to dig it up. So I think we need to plan in that direction.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. All right. Does anybody have anything? All right. If not, go ahead, Greg.
So I'd say the majority of my phone calls lately have been things that have been addressed here in these council meetings. And I think it's the same age-old problem that we've had since I've been on the council, is trying to get communication out to the public, and how do you do it the best way. Just probably 3 phone calls this week about debris pickup, and I know that's been discussed heavily about how far behind we are on that. Got a call this morning that said it's been over 3 weeks that debris has been sitting out there. I really don't at this point even know what to say back to them, except I know we're dealing with driver issues and holidays and storms and all of that, but I'd like an official answer to give.
Yes, sir. So we average, just for knowledge base, we average about 15 to 20 loads of garbage on a week to take. That's for grinding site. The week of late June, middle June, right after the storm, we went to 37 loads that week. The week after that, we did 50, I think the number was 54, 57. It was 57 loads. That was the week that ended up on January the 2nd. And we're on track again this week to have that same type of loads. So the way we did it was, we have a Monday's route that typically we run on a typical Monday. We stayed on the Monday's route till we got all of Monday done. So we were off on that Monday. We started on Tuesday. It took us 4 days to run Monday's route to get all of Monday's pickup. So instead of skipping around the city, we stayed on Mondays till we got all of Monday's done. Tuesdays and Thursdays routes, which are typically 2 days to run those 2 routes, is taking us over a week, 6 days to get those done. So we're through with Tuesdays and Thursdays. We're now on Friday's route. We should have that caught up this week. So anybody that has anything on the street, originally from the storm, we'll have those picked up this week. After that, we'll get back on the regular schedule, and we're hopeful that we can stay within the normal everyday event. So if you hear anything, complaints that somebody's not on a Friday route, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday route, tell them to call Public Works and let us know.
So we're on Friday now.
We're on Fridays now. We should be caught up.
So we should have by the end of the week have at least one pickup post storm in the entire city.
Correct. When you say Friday's route, are you talking about Friday's garbage pickup?
Fridays, where if you have the grinding pickup, the boom trucks that come by and pick up your.
So how would you know what that is? Because all I know at my own home.
It's the same every week.
Same, but I'm saying this trash is the same as trash pickup or garbage pickup. Or is it different?
I'm not sure where that is, and Shannon's working on something for me downstairs for the storm right now. He would be here, but if their day is typically, if they call you, is your day typically on a Friday? Do they pick up? Where do you pick up your yard waste? If it's on a Friday, they should be through this week.
That's kind of been the problem is that the last several months it's been all over the place because of this very thing. So they don't even know when it's supposed to be. So I guess my question is, how do I find out so that I can report back to them?
The next week,
can you find out and just report in staff reports? What
I can.
I'm pretty sure it's the same.
I'll double check it before meeting, and I'll come back for staff reports. But I'll tell you this: next week we should be back on the regular schedule. If you'll let them know that. If that's a problem, you let me know, and I will take care of it.
Now, are we still under we have 5 knuckle boom trucks, but only 3 are operating because of lack of drivers?
Right now, we're running 3 knuckle booms currently. Yes, sir. And we normally run 5 with a rotation of having some extra ones to pick up those extra surplus, but we're running three trucks right now due to equipment and truck drivers that we have available. So we're down on staff, we're down on equipment, and we got hit with a storm all at the same time. You're talking about the perfect storm, right, for garbage pickup. But we should be caught up, Mr. Councilman, by the end of this week.
I knew a lot of that. I just didn't know how to find the best way to find out.
I'll find out about that before you give it to you in staff report.
So, just to kind of throw out there, we're not going to solve this today, but, I do wonder, and I've floated this by Jonathan recently, and I realize you've got FEMA implications to what I'm about to say, but this will not be the last wind event we have that knocks an inordinate amount of limbs down, right?
Right.
And rarely, absent some major storms, rarely do those qualify for FEMA funding anyway, right? So what I'm getting at is, since it's something we know is going to happen, something that is never going to stop, should we budget for some third-party pickups when we have these events to keep us on schedule? Because, there are contractors that would gladly probably come in and help us clean up the city after an event.
That's something I'd like to give some thought to, and maybe during our budgeting process, let me give you some proposals on that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's something worthy of discussion.
Okay. All right, let's take a 2-minute recess, and we'll reconvene in regular meeting.
Yeah. I do. But I didn't do it right. This is the afternoon. Right, they group Bernie got up, cooked the food, eat stuff. He was done about 2 minutes. And I didn't put the potatoes on. Shoot, nah, you better holler. No, you can put, we ain't had that much. Rodney gets daddy got this whip round, and it's still good. And he does cook it off. So he did it. The kids, and Cuban was fun coming up. He's fun. Say, call him Mr. Spoon. She just be looking at me. Oh yeah, we had to sit there. Mama done already said, "Well, it's time to sit." She is really good. Yeah, he was at my area so I said, run this over here, run this. You doing good? Did you go to the lake for the pool? What y'all normally do for the pool?
Yeah, we were up at the point. No, Lake Martin. Martin.
My cousin was there.
Huh? Mostly just skiing and tubing and boating. Yeah, just.
Susan Danforth, she was showing me her. They went to this billfish thing down in Panama. Well, that billfish thing was going on, but they weren't participating in that per se. But they went fishing and Ron caught some long snappers. And she caught a real nice true fish, but she had put that because it wasn't seasoned. Have you ever had true before? Oh, it's good. My dad introduced me to it. So we go to Pensacola, we used to stop at Japan.
Mayor Cooper. Mayor Cooper, you doing the prayer? Well, that's who Carol assigned it to, was you.
She forgot to tell you.
There you go.
All right, Greg, let's go.
Mount Scotty. All right, if we could get the room back in order. I've got past a few minutes past 12 here, so I'm going to call this City Council meeting of the Enterprise City Council to order. Let the record show that all members of the City Council are present. If you would please stand with me for opening prayer and pledge of allegiance. Mayor Cooper is going to lead us in our opening prayer.
We would pray, most gracious Heavenly Father, thank you for this day and the blessing you have stored upon us as we go into our meeting and what we're doing here for progress of our citizens of this city, guide, lead us in the right direction we need to go. If there's anything that we need to do, dear Lord, lead us in that direction. And dear God, as we pray for this city, progress that we've made thus far. Strengthen us in our weaknesses, build us up on our own. Give us that love that goes from heart to heart. These are the lessons in our son Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. All right. Thank everyone for joining us at an odd time due to the 4th of July holiday. But Council, you should have an agenda in front of you that we discussed in the prior work session. I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
I move to approve the agenda of the meeting as submitted.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now consider the consent agenda. All matters listed within the consent agenda have been distributed to each member of the council for review, are considered to be routine, and will be enacted by one motion of the City Council with no separate discussion. If separate discussion is desired on an item, that item may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda by request of a member of the City Council. I'll now call for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now consider a permit street closure request for Main Street Enterprise and Girls Night Out. I call for a motion to approve the following permit requests as submitted. Girls Night Out event, time and date is 2 p.m. to 9 p.m. Saturday, September 30th, 2023. The rain date is Saturday, October 7th, 2023, and the street closure from 12 p.m. to 10 p.m. Closure area being East College Street, alleyway to Main, and West College Street, Main to alleyway. Do I hear a motion?
I move to approve the permit request as submitted.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now move to the portion of the meeting called Privilege of the Floor, which allows persons 3 minutes to address the council that are present today. Does anyone here wish to take privilege of the floor? All right, seeing no one, we'll move to staff reports. Do we have any staff reports that were unable to be had during our work session? Barry?
Gentlemen, I've asked CC Litchfield to be here as well with us today. We've got something exciting that's going to happen sometime right after midnight, so I'll let him give you a quick update on the rec center, and I've got a couple more answers for you.
Yeah, afternoon. Just keep it brief. We're heading out there in just a little bit. If the rain holds up for us, inspect rebar, and they're looking to pour the remaining main portion of the gymnasium around midnight tonight. So once that's complete, that'll be all of the concrete on the site that's poured. There's a lot of dirty work that goes into getting it to that level. It's not exciting to see though. But after today, we'll start seeing things go vertical. Sometimes next week, if weather holds up, you should start seeing block walls and everything going up. So there'll be a lot of positive buzz for people driving around the community that can actually see what's taking place out there now. So demolition's complete in the Moose Hope Gymnasium as well. So again, once these walls start going up, it's going to move really fast now. So that's all good news. Getting past the rough weather as well. So
Good. Awesome. Any questions for Mr. Price?
No, it's great.
So that y'all know, we'll be pouring about 500 cubic yards of concrete sometime between midnight and 2 o'clock will be our start time. So we'll have testing people there, contractor will be there, staff will be there, I'll be there at least. I don't know about staff.
Take pictures.
This is the exciting part because you get one chance to get it right on the front end. So this will be all the foundation work. We'll have poured by tomorrow. We'll have it all finished. The only thing left concrete to pour will be around the pool deck. So we'll have to do the pool and the pool deck between those three buildings. So we still have that to do. So exciting stuff to happen over the next couple of weeks. You should start to see things start to pop out of the ground, and I'd imagine the public will get excited. One thing, and I'm going to work with Chief more on this, is we'll have a lot of concrete trucks tonight in the morning. So if just beware, be patient with us. We're trying to get them in there. We'll come right off of Lee Street into the site and stay out of the neighborhood, but we've got to get pumper trucks and concrete trucks there to get that done tonight. So I'm excited for that, but everything seems to be on schedule, and contractor seems to have all his answers. So I didn't know if you had any questions about the rec center. I wanted to make sure while we had Raleigh here.
Tell me again how many yards you plan on pouring tonight?
Roughly 500 yards.
Wow.
Yeah.
500. So they're saying start pour around 2 o'clock. So I'll be here. So if you see me tomorrow red-eyed, you'll know why. We'll be pouring concrete tomorrow. But that's exciting stuff. Do you have any questions for Raleigh? Back to your other question about garbage, I did confirm with Shannon. The yard debris pickup is the same day as your regular can pickup. They coincide together. So as the garbage trucks run through picking up your cans, they're looking for yard debris and sending the boom trucks to where they should be to pick up those knuckle booms. Currently, we're running 4. As of right now, we actually pulled another driver out of another group. We're running 4 trucks currently. By the end of this week, we'll be caught up post-storm. Friday's route be caught up today. So the good thing is we got the first round done. The bad news is probably going to be is we haven't touched Monday's route for 2 weeks. So we're probably two weeks behind. So people may be complaining that, hey, I have debris in my yard. It's been there for a couple of weeks. We're going to try to keep on the same cycle. So we'll get back on Monday's route. We're going to finish all of Monday's route, and then we'll go to Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, and hopefully over the next 2 cycles, maybe on the 3rd cycle, we'll get back into a normal process of doing it. It's just a tremendous amount of loads of yard debris, trash, grass, clippings, tree limbs, that type of stuff that people have brought to the road. And we were outside, and that's not the first time I've heard this. It's typically I don't have a lot of yard waste, but because of this storm I did. There's a lot of winds that broke out tree limbs and stuff that people are putting stuff on the street that we have never seen. To see triple the amount of yard, but just the 42-yard trucks that we've got, triple that amount just shows the volume that we're trying to pick up and get out of people's yards and get into the grinding site. So that's a quick update. I hope that answers your question.
Any other questions on yard debris? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. Any other staff reports? I think I saw Chief Davis or Leanne. They keep beating you. We'll get to you.
Just a quick update on the system upgrade. So, of course, everybody knows we were down Thursday and Friday, and then we're back up on Monday. And if you were here on Monday, you probably saw that there was a little bit of a line to the water counter. And so, because, of course, we were down for a few days, and it's the beginning of the month, and it's a new system, so there was quite a few people here getting their bills taken care of. We're continuing to work just as quickly as we can to get everybody handled. I think everything, if you've ever gone through a system-wide upgrade, it's a little stressful, and I think things are going as well as they could be. There's, of course, a few bugs that have to be worked out, but so far things are working well. We just have to, readjust on the backside with the employees, our processes for how things are getting done in the system. Few things have changed, and so we're just making sure that we're taking all the steps and getting all of that done. But I think things have gone really well. I, again, just remind the public to be patient with us in the coming weeks, because it is the entire system. So that affects permitting, when you go downstairs and get a permit in engineering, when you apply for business license, when you pay your water bill, all of those things are being affected. So please just continue to be patient with us as we work through the new system. I promise that it will continue to get faster and get better. And if there's any issues, of course, just let us know, let the appropriate department know if there's any issues, and we will get on that and see what we can do to get things fixed. So,
right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Leanne. Chief Davis.
Just a real quick update. I just wanted to share with you that we had our golf tournament this last weekend, Saturday. It was a big success. We made approximately $6,000. That's rough. All the numbers aren't final just yet, which is very similar to last year, but with half the teams. If you were involved last year, it was quite a long day. This year was much shorter, so it ended up being a real big success, and all that'll go towards the community risk reduction program. And I just wanted to thank the sponsors and let you guys know about it. All the sponsors are on our Facebook page, so I would encourage anybody to look them over if you're not familiar who they are. If you see them, say thank you. And then, of course, this Saturday we're going to be having our community safety fair, and that's all kinds of stuff going on. Kids meet, but the thing that I like the most is just come out and meet some of your local first responders. We'll have Fort Rucker Fire will be there, obviously. Police department, rescue squad, their helicopter, all kinds of agencies out there. So if you're interested or you want to meet first responders in the area, that's where they'll all be. And I just want to make sure you guys were aware of that.
Where is that?
That'll be 301 Plaza Drive, Central Fire Station.
All right. Anything for Chief Davis? Thank you, Chief. Any other staff reports? Seeing no more, we will move on to old business. We'll now have a public hearing consideration of ordinance 060623 for the Heron Cove LLC rezone. And I'll call for a public hearing prior to consideration of ordinance 060623, providing for the rezone of 16.57 acres of land owned by Heron Cove LLC from B1 Business District to R75A Residential District, located at 300 Heron Cove Drive. And this public hearing is now open. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak for or against this rezone? All right, I see no one, so I will declare the public hearing closed and call for consideration of ordinance 060623.
I move to adopt the ordinance 060623.
All right.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now have a public hearing and consideration of ordinance 060623A, the McDaniel Farms rezone. And I'll call for a public hearing prior to consideration of ordinance 060623A, providing for the rezone of 4.72 acres of land owned by McDaniel Farms from R85 Residential District to B3 Business District, located at the southeast corner of Highway 167 and Salem Road. This public hearing is now open. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak for or against the rezone? Seeing no one, I will declare the public hearing closed and call for consideration of ordinance 060623A.
I move to adopt ordinance 060623A.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now move to new business. I'll introduce Planning Commission recommendations. I introduce for the record a recommendation from the Enterprise Planning Commission to approve the following requests for the rezone of property. A request by Shane Smith for the rezoning of 0.41 acres of land from B2 Business District to R65 Residential District, located at 218 East Lee Street. A request by North Star Engineering Services Incorporated on behalf of Pecan Grove Development, LLC, for rezoning of 3.18 acres of land from R65 Residential District to R75A Residential District, located at the southeast intersection of Dixie Drive and Cheyenne Drive. There'll be no action on that. It's just simply recommendations. I introduce ordinance 070523, the Smith rezone. I introduce ordinance 070523, providing for the rezone of 0.41 acres of land owned by Shane Smith from B2 Business District to R65 Residential District, located at 218 East Lee Street. I also call for a public hearing to be held at the regular meeting scheduled for August 1st, 2023. No action today. I introduce ordinance 070523A, Pecan Grove Development, LLC rezone. Introduce ordinance 070523A, providing for the rezone of 3.18 acres of land owned by Pecan Grove Development, LLC from R65 Residential District to R75A Residential District, located at the southeast intersection of Dixie Drive and Cheyenne Drive. I also call for a public hearing to be held at the regular meeting scheduled for August 1st, 2023. Again, no action on that today either. We'll now consider resolution 070523, Public Building Authority and City Hall renovations. I call for a motion to adopt resolution 070523, which will approve the grant to the Public Building Authority the total sum of $7.8 million to cause necessary renovations to repairs to City Hall, and which will approve and authorize the execution of an agreement and lease related to City Hall and the renovations. Do I hear a motion?
I move to adopt resolution 070523.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now consider authorizing the mayor to execute amendment number 1 to the agreement regarding CC and Litchfield PC for the Recreation and Aquatic Center. I call for a motion to amend the agreement with CC and Litchfield PC from the previous not to exceed amount of $1,181,480.85 to $1,470,641.46 for additional designs and services for the new Recreation and Aquatic Center project, and further authorize the mayor to execute amendment number 1 to the agreement. Do I hear a motion?
I move to amend the agreement with CC Litchfield PC and further authorize the mayor to execute amendment number 1.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Mayor, you have a report for us?
Thank you, Mr. President. I hope that everyone has a safe and happy 4th of July with our families and friends. We're blessed to live in the land of the free because of the brave. A reminder that because of the holidays, garbage collection schedules are just this week. We ask that you continue to be patient with our crews as they work to pick up the bulk of the garbage items around the city. Like many others, the City of Enterprise is looking to hire more workers to help fill job openings, especially in our public works department. If you know of anyone who may be interested, please encourage them to check our website for available jobs. I would like to take a moment to acknowledge our public works team, both the office staff and those out on the field. They have been extremely busy with the storms we've had lately. There's been a lot of debris. These folks have been doing what they can as they quickly as they can. I want to thank them for the job that they're doing, and again to encourage our citizens to be patient as they work to pick up everything on the side of the road. The software system used by the City of Enterprise to process payment just went through an upgrade. Thank you to our citizens for their patience during this transition. We had a great turnout at the Watermelon Day Festival at Falls Park, Freedom Fest on Fort Novacell, and at Enterprise Fire Department Golf Tournament. We hope you all enjoy these activities and appreciate the city staff that participated in making these events successful. Saturday is the community safety fair at the Central Fire Station. This event is hosted by the fire department and the Coffee County Community Response Team. This is a free family event that will showcase several of the first responders in our community. There will be free activities and hands-on demonstrations. You'll also have a chance to look at the new fire engine. Don't forget that the barricades downtown are there for your safety. Please do not move them or cross over them. Also, let's all remember, only cross in the designated crosswalk along Main Street. Registration is still open for the Enterprise Park and tackle and flag football and volleyball. You can register in person online through July 28th. I would like to take a moment to congratulate some of our baseball and softball teams. The 11 All-Star baseball team is headed to the World Series in Gulfport, Mississippi. The 15 and under and the 17 and under All-Star baseball team are headed to the Dixie World Series. And for the softball, 15 and under Bells, 10 and under Angels, and 8 and under Darlings, all headed to the Dixie State Tournament this week. Congratulations to these players and their coaches, and we wish you luck in your upcoming game. As always, stay up to date with what's happening in Enterprise. Our following our Facebook page or logging on to our website, enterpriseal.gov. Thank you, Mr. President.
Ms. Sonia?
Thank you, Mr. CC and Litchfield crew for coming. Looking forward to seeing our rec center get a good jump start. Hope the weather holds up for everybody tonight. Thank everyone for coming.
Eugene?
Hope everyone had a happy and safe July the 4th. And of course, we like to continue to thank our department heads, our city employees for the job they're doing. Ask the public to be patient with us till we get all the trash picked up. Thank you for coming.
Mr. Gregg?
Also hope everyone had a great 4th. Thanks for coming, everyone. Thanks to the city staff for all you're doing. Glad to see the reports of all the great things happening. And see you next time.
Scotty?
Yeah, thanks to everyone for coming, and thank you to all our online residents watching us through the YouTube channel out there. Sirs, thank you very much. Every time I drive by there, see things popping up and everything. It's going to be awesome. And seeing those center blocks going up, it's going to be great. And thank you again for our city staff for everything you do. Saw a bunch of them out working the other day in that heat, and I've seen them hydrate because that's my biggest thing. Make sure you hydrate. And I'm going to also mention our community safety fair because our CERT team is looking forward to this Saturday, July 8th, 10 to 2, Central Fire Station on Plaza Drive. Bring the kiddies out. We got great inflatables that were donated by the Spacewalk of Inflatables of Enterprise. We appreciate that. Touch a truck, helicopters, going to be all sorts of stuff. Food trucks out there. So come on out, see your fire department, see your police department, see all our first responders. Say thank you to them and grab something at one of the food trucks. But again, thank you very much and God bless.
Yeah, ditto what everybody said. Thank everyone for coming. And a little programming note, our next meeting will be back to our regular schedule at 5 p.m. on Tuesday, July 18th for our work session, and our regular meeting followed at 6 o'clock. That's the first and third Tuesdays of the month. We are adjourned.